Hi, and welcome to the Mental Health Raw and Open podcast. I'm your host, Jody, and I created this show to have honest, candid conversations about mental health in an effort to help reduce the stigma. I am issuing a trigger warning as many of the topics we discuss may be highly sensitive for some. If you are having suicidal thoughts, please reach out to someone, go to your local hospital, or call a crisis line. In the United States, call 1-800-273-8255, or in Canada, 1-833-456-4566. On today's show, we'll be talking with Sharon Stewart. Sharon is the owner of Simply a New Me, a non-for-profit charity organization that helps empower young girls and young women. Sharon is also the compiler of the book that I'm in, and I was privileged enough to be offered the opportunity to be a part of Sharon's book. It is called Healing the Little Woman Inside. It is available on Amazon now, or you can contact me or contact Sharon or any of the other authors to get a signed copy. We appreciate all your support. Sharon, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Hey, girl. So nice to talk to you.
It's so nice to talk to you, too. We haven't had the privilege of having a private conversation yet.
I know. And this is a beautiful thing. I love this platform. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, no worries. I appreciate you coming, and I appreciate the energy that you bring. I don't know. It seems like abundant energy you bring everywhere with you.
I try. I like to, I am that big ball of light, that big ball of energy. I can't help it. It's just always who I've been. Got me in a lot of trouble as a kid, but, now it seems to be working.
Yeah, I completely understand. So tell me, I hear you're a best-selling author.
I am. Myself and 30 other amazing, phenomenal, brilliant, talented women came together, and I had this vision since I was a child of just healing as many people as I can, and women especially. And I was able to coordinate and collaborate with them to create our best-selling book called Healing the Little Woman Inside. And it's stories of rebirth and renewal, of how women, we grow into these beautiful women, but we are still silenced like we were as children. And it's just stories of how women have broken through that and allowed their little girl to heal. And here we are, bestsellers. Woo-woo!
Yeah, that's amazing, really. It's phenomenal to think, like, over time, how many different lives it will touch, and how many different cultures and languages and just different experiences.
Definitely. I mean, that's so exciting when you say that. I'm like, ooh, different languages, to see my book in Punjabi or Spanish or Taiwanese or Mandarin, something like German. Oh my goodness, that would just be mind blowing. I'm so excited.
Get there.
Oh, it will. Most definitely.
The stories of the women they're all very successful, and they're very accomplished, and they've all overcome quite a lot. And I say kudos to you for the number of fabulous women that you found to go on this project with you. How did you find them?
Like, honestly, when I realized I had this vision, and I was like, it's great to hear my story, but really, does everybody want to just talk about me? And no, it's about healing through stories. So honestly, the good old thing called social media, I just put it out there and said, hey, this is what I want to do. Who's on board? And people started jumping on board. And then people who were my friends were kind of like, hey, this is what you're doing. How can I be a part? And then they tell people, and then people would tell people. And beautiful like you, Jody, jumped on board. And it just became this whole phenom where I'm like, oh, the most important and brilliant people that I've ever met in my life are in the palm of my hand, and the rest of the world gets to see it, all because I wasn't afraid just to put it out there. And, the universe gives you what you ask for. And I asked for brilliance and phenomenal queens, and I got them.
You've got such a diverse group of people with such really diverse problems, from one end of the spectrum to the other end of the spectrum. And I think that being able to write like that is going to reach a wider audience. It's going to allow people to feel that, it's okay to feel like that. It's validation for their feelings and thoughts. And in healing, validation is something that people don't get enough of. And it's so hugely important.
I agree. But I think the whole gist of it was, so for years, sorry, for those of you who don't know, hi, I'm Sharon Emery. I run a not-for-profit organization called Simply a New Me. And I originally started working with young girls. I believe that these young girls are our future and they're our leaders. And we're allowing social media to raise them, for the fact, everyone's trying to get everything and try to have everything. And we're forgetting that we're not raising these young girls. So when I was doing my programs, I ended up talking to mothers, and all these mothers had all these issues. And I was kind of like, oh yeah, I remember that happened to me. And I worked in a shelter, and the women had all these stories. And I was like, wait, all these women want to hear each other when we'd have talks. And I was like, this is healing. This is so much healing. And then I realized, ladies, you see one thing that we have in common. We're not alone. And that's the premise of the book. Everybody in the book, just like you said, will touch somebody and they realize like, hey, somebody else did it. They got through it. I can either reach out to them. I can use their story, but I'm not alone. So there's no more having to hide in the closet and, putting on that fake smile or that mask and acting like everything's great when it's not. And when you can realize that other people are just like you.
Absolutely. And North America is master of people walking around with masks on, pretending that their lives are all so great because they have 2 cars and a picket fence and go on 2 vacations a year. And you know what? You don't know what's happening behind closed doors. You really don't.
That's it. It's incredible how many women that I've come across, and you see them and they're just, well put together. They're in these high profile jobs, and then you hear a story or they do something. And because I work with so many women, it's intuitive. You can kind of just see like, ooh, something happened. Mm-hmm. And then when I go up to them and I start having a full conversation, a little girl in them is still there. And the things that they say, I'm just like, oh my gosh. When did you realize that? What year was that? And they'll tell you, I was 6, I was 7, I was 8. They're in their 40s and 50s and 60s, still holding on. We've got to let that go. We have to heal that, because it's as successful as we are we really successful if we're not 100%? Are you at your best?
No,
so
you absolutely are not. And it's hard to get to that point, as you know, especially when you're, I think you have that extra battle to climb when you're a trauma survivor, because you have so many other things, especially your mind, that are working against you. Yeah,
you're absolutely correct. And, when you are a survivor of anything, if you won't have or don't have that vulnerability to want to share, you're going to be in silence, and that's horrible to be there by yourself. And if you don't have a group of people who understand you, not just listen, because I don't need you to just hear what I'm saying. I need you to understand. You don't have to walk in my shoes, but you've got to understand that what I've done and what's gone through me is a lot harder for me than it might be for you. So just understand what I'm going through. And a lot of people don't do that. People don't take the time to understand people. It's just kind of like, well, just get over it. What's the problem? Just move on. And those are the people who don't do well later on. Those are the people who end up breaking down. Those are the people who end up having all kinds of issues because they didn't want to deal with that little woman inside.
Oh, absolutely. And I think something very important I learned in trauma therapy is you literally, for me, my circumstances are a little bit extreme. So my abuse started when I was 6 months old and lasted till I was 14. So I think I didn't have a chance not to be traumatized, if that makes sense. So I just thinking that's how things work. That's how everyone was. Was for me, why would it be different for, my buddy down the street?
Yeah. And then it's that not knowing, right? It's normalized for you. I felt the same when things would happen. I came from a very violent household. So to me, it was just natural that if you didn't do what you're supposed to do, you're going to get knocked around because you should have kept your mouth shut. And so when people are saying, well, having all these other issues, I didn't understand, because I'm kind of like, what? Well, yours is different than mine. What do you mean? You're not going through the same thing as me? Wait, what? There's different traumas, and understanding that outside of my bubble is a real world. And so we all can just hear each other, and we can grasp the identity of each other and have a compassion and empathy towards each other and self. There will be no healing unless you as the person have decided that those other 97% who don't care, they don't mean anything. Because, we, as trauma victims, we've talked about it as well. You always want validation from the wrong people who might not have the ability to give it to you because they've experienced trauma. They've experienced that they haven't or are too embarrassed to share, especially if you're from an older generation. They don't want to talk about that. Why are you bringing that up now? Leave it. Just go. Move on. It doesn't work. because now you're bitter. Now you're unhappy. And everyone that comes in your presence feels it because you won't speak to it and allow it to be free.
Absolutely. If it doesn't hit the air, it's never going to be cleared. And I mean, it doesn't even have to hit the hair with something person. It can be, like writing that you rip up afterwards.
Yeah.
You got to get out. It just does more damage keeping it in. It's a nonstop war in your head and it's tiring. And then your view of things, like with BPD, I try and compare it like the BPD puts a dark view on everything. So I'm wearing sunglasses. So everything I see has a dark view. Now, when I go outside and it's bright and sunny, I take those sunglasses off. I still cannot fucking see. My view is still always going to be askew. So I'm always going to see things different. So now I have to unlearn, to rewire my brain one thing at a time, and take these reactions, which are basically innate reactions for me, and replace them with something. And for me, I have this great big box of coping skills. It's getting them implemented in the 2 seconds of time that I have between being one mood and the next mood. Because in BPD, you could have 20 moods in a day. Like being on a roller coaster up and down that you could never get off of.
Wow. And in just sharing that, Jody, and you being graceful and to tell everyone and to share that is beautiful, because a lot of people don't know that. And a lot of people are so used to judging a book by its cover and not realizing all the things that built up to this one moment in time, or to the woman that's standing here. But you are creating a knowledge base for people to be like, wow, this is real. This isn't something like back in the day, you're PMSing. Oh, shit, she's on her period. She's just being a bitch. Like, why are you? No, this is real. This is real. This is what trauma does. This is what trauma looks like. This is what I need you to do, and this is what I need you not to do. Let's create this checklist so you know what I need and when I don't need it. And for you and to keep coming and sharing that story and then sharing who you are and the brilliance of what you're doing is just what is so needed in the world. And I think you bringing light also to that in the book was fantastic, because I don't know if you've read, but there's somebody else in the book who, not exact because there's never two people, but she has a similar issue. But that brought on drug use for her. And that's her fight. And to see the two come together and people can be like, wait, this is me and this is me. Oh my gosh, like, wow. It's so empowering, and you're just so empowering. And I need for everybody listening to know how great Jody is, and the fact that she's taking what most people would call a disability. I don't call that. I call it her ability to do and see the world. Your darkness sometimes in your eyes may be what we're not seeing and need to see. Do you know what I'm saying? Not everything that is in light is perfect, because there's something hiding behind something that shines so bright all the time. So it's not darkness. You're just seeing the world maybe for what it is, and then you can pick and choose what was going to work for you, as opposed to being that yes person. Yes, I'll do it. Yes, I'll do it. Yes, I'll do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, never really had that quote kiss ass ability, which is why I was like a waitress twice, and I lasted a week each time, but I bartended for 15 years because it's a whole different thing. I don't have to kiss ass.
Yeah.
My emotions are on my sleeve. If you look at my eyes, because they're light eyes, so if you look at them, you can tell if I'm having a bad day, if I'm having a good day. Eyes are the pathway to the soul, they say. So I don't really know how to be fake anymore, because I had to be fake for so long. Now I can't shut up. I feel I have a responsibility to people, because I went through so much shit. It had to be for something. It can't just be for no reason at all. I have to have it mean something for me to make peace with it. So for me, it's just being nonstop. I'm going to tell people about suicide. I'm going to tell them, tell your kids, ask your friends. Directly ask the question, are you suicidal? It is not going to make someone have thoughts. It's going to save a life. I am going to keep preaching that until everybody talks about it at their kitchen table at dinner.
Right.
Because the number of kids that I see now that message me that are under 12 years old.
Oh, yeah.
It's so sad.
Yeah, it is sad. And I have seen it. I've seen, kids going to, hospitals for attempted suicide at 12. They're not being heard. No one's seeing them, because that stupid stigma as a child should be seen and not heard. Go play on your Nintendo. Go. You have an iPad. Go use your phone. Yeah. And then you don't even know what the hell they're on. You don't know what they're watching. You don't know what's feeding that already impressionable mind. Come on. We got to do better, because these little girls And people are going to grow up to be men and women who have not been healed and who've been shunned. And what do you do with all of that?
And they're all basically socially isolated. All their communications are through a video game online.
Yeah.
Or a text message is going to be like, I'm going to text her, will you marry me?
I know.
What's happening? Lack of communication is such a big problem right now. And people are not taught to listen. They're taught to listen to speak. So your next thought is already running through your mind because that's what you want to be next. That's not listening.
Right.
You need to hear someone else, which means silence your mind and listen to them. They should be your only one focus.
Right. It's true. I absolutely agree with you on that. Absolutely agree. But, again, in fairness, a lot of people have children and they themselves have gone through trauma.
Yes.
So they haven't. So they don't have the toolbox that you've gracefully gone out and made sure that you have. Again, sweep it under the rug. I got through it, so they'll get through it. Or they don't even notice, like you said, because they're still trying to get through it and trying not to be the stigma that they put on, mental health. No, I don't have that. You do. And there's nothing wrong with that. Let's figure out how we can fix that. Everybody has mental health. And people don't want, I'm like, everyone has mental health. What are you talking about? I get in debates all the time. No, you don't. Yes, you do. When someone says you're depressed, you don't have to be always clinically depressed. That's still a mental health issue. How are you handling that? Nope, not me. I would never have that. Nope. Yes, you do. Let's deal with it so that you can help others deal with it. We can raise a whole new generation of understanding, empathetic, skillful people who have lots of different mental health challenges, but are able to help each other and themselves.
And I think the more that people start to talk about it, then, they tell two friends and they tell two friends. And sometimes, there's a generation of people you're just not going to reach. That's just that. They've made closure with whatever. My father's generation is one of them. As far as he's concerned, he beat my mom 3 times. That's it. Okay, so that's what he's made peace with. I'm not having that argument again. Now I have my boundaries set. And he is really the only one that I've been able to set really strong boundaries with. Certain things will never be spoken about because I will get up and I will walk out of Tim Hortons. I will walk home. I will hang up the phone.
Yeah.
I don't put up with that kind of nonsense anymore.
Right.
But he's like the kind of guy that said, right after my mom died, he took off and went on vacation. And I was 19 and I was cleaning up the pills off the floor and calling the Cancer Society and calling the hospital to get the bed back and shit that I shouldn't have been doing 5 days after my mom died kind of thing. It's an adult's responsibility. It's not mine. And he said to me once, I was depressed once after your mom died and I will never do it again. And I turned around and said to him, you weren't fucking depressed. You were sad. Please realize the difference.
Yes.
You were situationally sad because that's normal. I'm sad. I just lost a friend. I'm very sad, but I actually have depression. You can't ever just say, oh, I'm not going to have it again. What? Wouldn't we all just say that?
Yeah. But again, that's having to teach people. People don't know the difference. What was I watching? I was watching this movie on the weekend and they were talking about autism and these doctors are like, yeah, it's childhood schizophrenia. What? No, it's not. So people just don't know. And you hear like silly things. Like I remember my mother-in-law would say to me, oh, if my grandchild has a hiccup, you got to spit on a handkerchief and put it on her forehead. So stupidity gets moved forward. And so does a whole bunch of things that make no sense. And again, it's just unlearning. Like you said, so many people have to unlearn because
it's generational.
It was just
trauma.
Easier. Exactly. That's the word I'm looking for. It's just generational. And until we change the generation and put it out there, it's not going to happen with the older generation because they're okay with being ignorant.
Yes. And I think the 20-year-olds that I have a lot of contact with, they are a bunch of really smart and actually doing so much work. My buddy Jay made a short film on mental health. It took off like crazy and like he's showing it around universities and the government wants to have a copy of it and show it to people. And it's just inspirational really to see such a young group of people not at a bar or a club getting high or getting drunk all the time. They're building music studios to make music and they're modeling and acting and producing films on mental health in a minority community as well. So they were opening up the conversation because it's different culturally. Some people you just don't culturally talk about certain things, and other cultures you can maybe kind of get into it.
Right. It's such a great topic because mental health is like putting on socks every day. It's out there. kids have real issues now. Young kids and older people are still coming out with, hey, kids aren't stressed. It shouldn't be stressed. They shouldn't be depressed. They shouldn't have. And I just think there has to be more celebrities who are and have legitimately gone through, and, you know, they're public. There has to be more. They have to do more, because it's not conversations people want to have. It's like sex ed. Nobody wants to say the word penis. Nobody wants to say vagina. Everybody wants to have their nicknames for it. You know, oh, no, it's a penis and it's a vagina. This is what bipolar looks like. This is what schizophrenia looks like. This is what depression looks like. And this is what sadness looks like. Facts. Here are some signs. Here are some ways we can help. What can you do? And I just think, you know, again, the whole premise is not being alone and healing. Healing that trauma is not necessarily going to change your mental health issue, but it can help it. It can help you recognize it and take steps, because, I mean, it's real. It's not here, take a serum and, you know, go sleep it off and wake up tomorrow and you're better. It's not frontal lobotomy. It's a real
struggle for millions and millions and millions of people. And I heard that they're going to try and bring in meditation to grade 1 or kindergarten. And they've been doing that in Asia and parts of Europe for, you know, longer than North America's been around. Is starting with young children.
Yeah.
You're 2 or 3 years old in Asia, you learn how to meditate. That's part of your schooling, that kind of education.
Yeah.
We need to talk about penis. Yes, we do. But we also need to effectively talk about mental health and coping skills instead of releasing a bunch of hormonal 18-year-olds out in the world by themselves. They don't know what to do. Been taught the right skills. They haven't had the experience, because there's a whole generation that's been overly sheltered and has turned out overly entitled. So they don't want to do anything to get anything, because everything's always been given to them.
Right? But this is what I call swipe children. They get all of these things given to them. And I tell people all the time that you are going to have an entire generation that can't function, because you give them and give them and give them. And now they're being told no. And everybody's struggling from stress. Everyone has anxiety, because you never built skills along the way that you can't have this right now, honey, and let them learn how to deal. Now you're just telling them no at 20, 21, 22. Guess what? Daddy can't always get you a job. Mommy can't always call her friend. And you still have to put in the work, and you can't handle it.
No, that's true. It's a lot of work to work through your shit, but there's no way to go through it but straight through. You can try and take all the roots around, but you'll never get the weight of what you're carrying. It's like having a scar. You'll always have the scar. And sometimes if you've had surgery, you know, that scar kind of has that tingly feeling. If you rub your finger over it, it doesn't feel like normal skin. It feels kind of weird. It's always going to be there, but not going to be as raw.
Yes, right? It's always like, you know, it's like you always give that, you know, you're in a car and you're driving in the rear view mirror, things start to get a little distance. You still see it, but you're moving forward. And if it comes up again, it might not come up as strong, or it might come up as strong, and you just deal with it as best you can and you move forward.
And people have to realize, I was talking to a friend today and I said, you know what? Just stop with the big goals and put down all the little shit. If you're having trouble right now because you're so depressed, or so you're not eating and you're not sleeping, you're not getting out of bed. So let's make little tiny goals. So today you're going to get out of bed and you're going to get dressed and go watch TV in your living room. And if you did that, you give yourself a reward. You pat yourself on the back, positive self-talk to yourself, because that is something you achieved. It is a small accomplishment and may mean nothing to anyone else in the world, but for your mindset where you are right now, that is an accomplishment. When I was working with the Kids Helpline, so many kids that I talked to that whose parents have never said, I would always say to them, I'm proud of you of reaching out. They'd be like, I've never heard that before in my life. How can you have, I don't even have kids, but I'm pretty sure that if I did, I'd be telling them that I'm proud of them for something. How can you be 16 and you've never heard those words before?
You know why? A lot of people don't want to use that word, and they don't use anything because, you know, I don't know. She's 15. I don't know. She doesn't know what a period is. Like she doesn't know the word menstruation. What? Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? It's again, it's just allowing people to get to know who they are, getting to know what they do, and healing. Again, healing the little woman inside, and every woman's story in there is about acknowledgement sometime in their life about something that happened or traumatized them that they now know they have to work through or they're going to work through. And that's it, right? So it's taking that step. It's just taking that one step forward. It's just that one step forward.
Step forward is the hardest step.
Well, it is always the hardest step because you don't know what it brings. But sometimes stepping out of your comfortability is what's going to bring you the most comfort. If that makes any sense?
Yeah.
Right? You know, you spend so many years in turmoil, and then when you finally step forward and you release a bit, you're like, oh, okay.
I find it personally very odd because I'm so used to living in a trauma state that I wrote a blog about being attached to your trauma. Like some people are like, because that's your comfort zone. Outside of trauma is not my comfort zone. I'm learning for it to be by starting to write, by putting it online, then by going way out of my comfort zone and doing podcasts. That was a huge thing. It took me 3 months to even get the first one taped.
Right.
Because I was so self-condemning and self-critical. But at some point in time, there's no way to get around it. So I'm either going to do it or not do it. What's the worst that can happen? Worst case scenario is nobody listens and I don't ever do another one. Right. So I'm trying to like weigh out the possibilities, at the risks as compared to the costs.
Right. Right. And that's such a hard thing too, because, you know, depending on where you're coming from and what your background is, some people don't want to take risks. Some people have never learned to take risks. And then that holds them back from being the best version of themselves. That holds them back from taking those steps. And I just, as I said, I'm really proud of you for creating this platform, which will allow people just to say, hey, guess what? It isn't, hi, I'm bipolar, by the way, my name is. It's, we all have issues we're dealing with. Let's get through them together. Because hiding it is not going to make it better. You know what I mean? I'm not telling you to go out there and tell everybody your whole life story at one time, but you can share pieces of you because there's always going to be someone in that room that has that same piece that can add to your puzzle, and somebody else will add to your puzzle, and together you will create this beautiful cohesion of healing.
Really, all you need one person to say is, oh my God, you too?
Yes. Oh, that's it. You too.
You know, and then there's that instant bond that you can form with a person who's been through trauma. You form a different bond than you would form with someone who has not been through any trauma. And that's not even a conscious thing. It's a subconscious thing, but it's what happened because you know that the person that is not traumatized can try to be sympathetic and compassionate. But unless you've actually undergone some trauma, you cannot be empathetic. You can't learn empathy. You cannot teach empathy. Empathy comes from within. The book, it's out where?
On Amazon. You can purchase the book from myself directly, from Jody, from any of the authors that you resonate with. You can get it on Amazon.com, Amazon.ca. You can personally contact myself. You can personally contact Jody. We can get the books out to you. We'd love to hear from you, hear your review, what touched you, who touched you, why did it touch you, and how can we help you, and how can we all grow together in love.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think with that book, you've brought together that group of people that can and will make an effect on so many people. And that is, it's a humbling thing to save a life.
It is. It is the most gratifying, it is the most rewarding, and it is something that allows you to realize that there's so many other people out there who need us. And if I can share a story through my vision, who I can gather women together who can help, this is what we need to do because everybody's hurting. There's not one person that is walking on this earth that is not hurting. Not one. And if we can find and create groups that they can go to quicker rather than having to sit on Google, you know, looking up things, they just know where to go. We need to get out there more. We need to get into schools. We need to hit the young kids, like young, because these little kids are being drugged. These little kids are being given medication so that'll make them better. But there's nothing wrong with them. They need to be taught and helped with what they're feeling. Drugging them is not going to change that. Pacify what they're feeling. And then when they get older, you tell them they're crazy, then they don't need drugs. Like, what? Come on, we got to do better. So if we can start healing our children, they can grow up and they can create new generations and moving forward. We got this. We have to do this because this is what we're supposed to do to continue to heal our earth. Because if not, we're going to have a lot of people doing a lot of things to hurt people because, you know, hurt people when we could have helped them in some way or form. And it doesn't even have to be a conversation. It's just a damn smile. Just smile at me. Don't stare me down. Just smile at me. Hey, are you okay? Hey, you good? That's it.
I always tell people it takes you literally 4 seconds of your day, even less, to check in on someone. And sometimes people forget to check in on those who are always the caregivers or always helping because they assume you're always strong. Not necessarily the case, especially if you're an empathetic person, because you take everybody's pain with you on top of your own. And I think that we have to work together to create a whole environment that's trauma informed.
It is very sad. But again, in the society we live in, and only we can be the change that we want to see. We just got to keep moving forward.
Well, with people like you and your energy and your visions and all the ladies you've gathered with and worked with, and I can imagine how many different people you've met. I'm sure you've already saved a life. You've affected so many lives. You've given opportunity to so many people. You've helped so many young girls. I didn't even get really into your foundation much, so maybe we can do a whole nother podcast on that if you want.
Oh, yeah, that'd be fantastic.
You have such an energy and such a good aura to be around, so that's hard to have. It's hard to be able to pass positive energy on. And I think that even across conversation, you come across so positive and confident and secure. So yeah, you're awesome.
Thank you, Queen. And I appreciate you. And, you know, I'm not always confident, let's be real, and I'm not always 100%, but you know what? I go and put on the best that I can put on, and if I'm having a bad day, it's when I say, gosh, I'm really not having a good day. Give me love, people, give me love. And you give love, you get love. You know, it's how you put it out there.
I thank you so much for taking your time. I know that you have a million things to do because you have a million books to sell.
Yeah, that's what we got, a million books to sell. Let's get it, girl. Whole bunch of wonderful books out, and you can come and get them signed by us. We're going to be doing chapters, book signing, and a whole bunch of really great things. This book is not just a book, it's a movement. And when I say movement, we're going to be doing workshops about the things that are in the book so that people can come to whatever chapters and meet the authors so that they can see, hey, tell me about what you did. And we just create a movement of healing, and then they can go out and they can go out, and that's what we can do.
Taking all the steps in the right direction. So you got the ball rolling. It's just going to continue to roll.
Yeah.
I thank you for your inclusion, for allowing me to be a part of that and share my story.
Oh, you were sent to me for a reason, and here we are together doing something even greater. So it was meant to be, girl, and we have so many more things that we're going to do in the future. So thank you for believing in yourself and wanting to share with others to help heal. I appreciate you so much.
And I appreciate you so much too. Well, as we wrap up the show, I would like to give a special thanks to our guest, Sharon Stewart, for sharing her time and her story with us. If you enjoyed today's show, please make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss another episode. If you have any comments or questions or wish to be a guest on the show, you can message me at OneLastKick71 on Twitter, Jody B, B-E-E on Facebook, or through my website, jodybetty.com. Links can be found on the podcast website. I thank you so much for spending your time with us. Hopefully, together we can help to eliminate or at least reduce the stigma around mental health. Until next time, take care and be well.